As a child growing up in Westfield, New Jersey, Charles Addams became fascinated and inspired by this old Presbyterian cemetery on Mountain Avenue, and by these two Victorian houses, one on Elm Street and the other on Dudley Street. His father encouraged him to draw, and he started doing single-panel cartoons for the New Yorker, exploring strange subjects and dark humor. He developed a series of initially unrelated recurring characters that came to be called Charles Addams' Family of Ghouls. TV producer David Levy saw a book of Charles Addams' cartoons in a bookstore window and said that should be a television show. So specifically for the series, Charles Addams came up with the names and descriptions for the main characters. The series premiered on September 18th, 1964. 1 week later, their rival spooky family show, The Munsters, made its debut. The Addams Family did 64 episodes in 2 seasons. And here are the top 10 best ones. Now for the number 10 episode. Thank you, Thing. Thing is missing. The Addams believe that Thing has been Thing-napped, but he's really testing them to see how much they care. This episode has so many things going for it. The show always has the most creative openings of the Addamses just doing their everyday routine, and this one is my favorite, where they're combing each other's hair. It shows how close and how weird they are, and it has a great punchline of Thing and Fester at the end. It also has Gomez hilariously playing Sherlock Holmes and interrogating his family. But most of all, you get plenty of Thing. In more recent movies, they use computer effects and Thing goes all over the place. But in 1964, Thing just comes out of a box. It's simpler, but actually creepier. There are boxes all over the house, so Thing can pop out anywhere. And it leaves more to your imagination, because you're thinking, what is the deal with this hand? Ted Cassidy, who played Lurch, also played Thing, unless he was in the same scene and then the assistant director did it. And they do such a great job, especially in this episode, at showing different emotions with just a hand. He gets angry.
Excellent job, Thing, but I think I detected a slight hangnail. Think!
He feels failure, alarm, and great showmanship when he has his dancing cane. I just love everything about this episode. Incidentally, Thing is usually a right hand, but occasionally they would use left just to see if anyone noticed.
Boys and yogis relaxing, and the number 6 episode is... yes! The number 9 episode is Gomez the Politician.
Recurring character Sam Hilliard is running for city council, and Gomez and the others decide to help him with his campaign. The Addams Family is more than just being spooky. They're also about being ooky and kooky. But they're also about being a satire on the American way of life by always taking the opposite point of view. And this episode pokes fun at politics. The reason they support Hilliard is because he promises to drain the swamps, which they interpret as the literal wetland swamps. Now, because the Addamses love their swamps, and they know that politicians never keep their promises, they back him all the way. So Gomez gets his family to create campaign posters, write speeches, and even a song. But in a throwaway line, he says he's not even registered to vote. It's ridiculous, but also shows the real ridiculousness of politicians and their supporters. Along with Charles Addams shaping this humor, so did the producer and head writer Nat Perrin. Nat used to write for the classic comedy team the Marx Brothers, and was still a good friend of Groucho Marx. John Astin's version of Gomez is like a creepy version of Groucho, with a cigar, sardonic wit, and wild dance moves. Harpo Marx never talked, so Nat knew how to make a character come to life without words, or understandable words. And even the use of music is very Marx Brothery, And at the end of this one, Lurch is playing the harpsichord, which is similar to Chico's piano, and Fester is playing the harp. In fact, they even homage the Marx Brothers Sanity Clause routine when Gomez is rehearsing and editing his campaign speech.
Let's go through it.
My friends,
No, dear, get right to the issues.
you're right. And now for the matter of education.
No, much too controversial.
You're right. And now the question of social welfare? You're right. Thank you. Both Groucho and Chico and Gomez and Morticia did it brilliantly. Nothing like Christmas cheer. Number 8 is Christmas with the Addams Family. The next door neighbor tells Wednesday and Pugsley that there is no Santa Claus. So without realizing that the others are doing it too, each family member dresses up as Santa to prove that he's real. There's something irresistibly charming about the combination of horror, comedy, and Christmas. It's the magic of Christmas that gets you right here, but without the rigidness of everything has to be sweet, because it's combined with that wacky fun of Halloween. Gremlins did it, Nightmare Before Christmas did it, but who did it first? The Addams Family. Charles Addams had done some Christmas-themed Addams Family cartoons, so this episode is especially rooted in its New Yorker past. They sing traditional Christmas songs, which looks like the Christmas card of every horror fan's dreams. Because Grandmama doesn't like to throw anything away, like a lot of grandmothers don't, they decorate the tree with broken ornaments. But the highlight is seeing each one of them play Santa Claus.
You rang, ho, 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 for you, Pugsley.
Are you sure you're not Lurch?
No, Santa Claus.
Just a moment. That's Lurch. I can tell by his smile.
It's a scream. But because they're doing it so the kids can have a magical Christmas, it's also an endearing Christmas episode. Let's shed some light on the number 7 episode! It's Cousin It's problem! Gomez and Morticia get Cousin It a pet dog. It sheds some hair, but they think it's Cousin It who's going bald. So Uncle Fester tries to create a cure for baldness. I love every episode with Cousin It. This little guy, made up of hair, glasses, and a hat, with the voice, just makes everything more fun. Now, a man losing his hair is a traditional sitcom plot. But when you apply it to Cousin It, it takes on a whole new meaning. Because without his hair, he's nothing. Literally nothing! And the fact that it's a mistake only makes it sillier. Now, along with having it, this episode also highlights Uncle Fester, played by Jackie Coogan. Jackie had been a huge child star in the 20s. When he turned 21, his mother and stepfather were supposed to give him his earnings for $1 million, but they had spent most of it. Jackie sued, and out of this lawsuit came the Coogan Act, which ensured that 15% of a child actor's earnings be put into trust. Jackie was initially turned down for the role of Fester, but when he came back with his head shaved, it won him the role. Uncle Fester was a self-caricature by Charles Addams. He's incorrigible, loves explosives, and can generate electricity. Jackie plays him as this lovable, half-cranky old man, half-childlike nut. He has a squeaky, high-pitched voice, and is like a spooky version of Curly Howard. In this one, Fester claims to be an expert on curing baldness. So he conducts an experiment where he generates all of the electricity, and it actually works. He grows hair on a banana, and the doorknob gets a mustache, which are great visual gags. And Fester even grows hair on his own head, and he starts acting like a sexy playboy. It's true! Blinds do have more fun! When Fester is admiring himself in the mirror breaks. Now they stole that joke from the Munsters, but both shows would steal from each other, so touche.
The number 6 episode, the Addams Family meet the VIPs.
Excellent job, Pugsley. Now you can have those 6 pieces of cake. While the Cold War was going on, Two Russian diplomats want to see and study an average American family, so they pick one at random in the phone book. It's the Addams Family. This episode is part of a subgenre of the series, where we follow some new character, like a new neighbor. And they go to the Addams house, Gomez and Morticia show them around, and the new character freaks out. These episodes are always fun, because we get to see all of the great sets, props, and gags that make this series what it is. The house in the cartoons was fairly empty, but Charles Addams' own home was filled with ancient suits of armor and medieval weapons, so the show set design was an exaggerated version of that. In this one, we get the Native American statue that has pre-lit cigars, the clock, the playroom, Pugsley's disintegrator gun, crazy food, the piranhas, my personal favorite, Gomez blowing up his trains, and the meat-eating plant Cleopatra. Unfortunately, these episodes can be repetitive, because the new characters usually have a similar reaction, but not the Russian diplomats. They think the Addamses are the typical American family, and are taking notes and are going to report back to Russia. Typical American family eats I have newt. Mr. Harris, who's their American escort, wants America to make a good impression, so he's a nervous wreck trying to downplay how weird the Addamses are because his job, and potentially the United States, are on the line. And Gomez and Morticia are as proud as could be, showing everything off. The plants get pretty cranky when they're hungry. Plants get hungry? Cranky? So it's our favorite jokes, but with unique reactions. Plus, a swinging commentary on U.S. and Russian relations during the 1960s. The number 5 episode is Lurch Learns to Dance. Lurch doesn't want to go to the butler's ball because he doesn't know how to dance. But Gomez and Morticia insist that he does go and decide to teach him. This episode is all about my favorite character, Lurch. Charles Addams based Lurch on two Boris Karloff characters, Frankenstein's monster and the mad butler Morgan in The Old Dark House. While he looks frightening, just like Boris Karloff, Ted Cassidy brought in intelligence, sadness, and sensitivity to the character. But Ted was also a brilliant physical comedian, and he really gets to show it here. Ted Cassidy works that makeup and makes the craziest facial expressions. He's a master of grunts. Ugh. And when he's dancing, the 6'9", stiff and awkward character is the most hysterical thing you've ever seen. First, Wednesday teaches him ballet. She's adorable, but he's a klutz. Then, Morticia teaches him the twist. She looks like a swinging, sexy 60s vampire. But Lurch, I don't even know what he looks like. Then Gomez teaches him the tango, and both are so funny. Because there are so many dance numbers, there's also a lot of that great, fun and spooky Addams Family music. Vic Mizzy did all the music for the show, both the theme song and the incidental. And it's like a character unto itself. When Charles Addams met Vic, he said to him, "I'm considered a pretty way out guy because of my cartoons, but with you, I've met my match. Your music says Addams Family, and that's the perfect way to describe it." Number 4 is Halloween Addams style. What do you think, kitty cat? The Addamses are enjoying their Halloween festivities, but their neighbor tells Wednesday that witches don't exist. So the family has a seance to contact the witch in the family, Aunt Singe. This is their second Halloween episode. Now, Halloween is their favorite holiday, and the feeling's contagious, and you feel like you're celebrating with them. Just like last year, Gomez carves a jack-o'-lantern using Fester as a model. It's actually the same footage. They make snacks like porcupine taffy, and they have this seesaw bobbing for apples contraption, which is one of the grooviest things I've ever seen. The final scene takes place the next day, And even though Halloween is over, they're still using it. And as someone who loves Halloween, I think it's awesome that they're still celebrating. I also think that the plot is awesome. At the time, psychiatrists said that the Addams Family was the healthiest show on TV because everyone supported each other. Now, Wednesday is sad because she's told there are no witches. Now, on the surface, that's very funny. But then you get to see how much they care about each other. Gomez and Morticia conduct a seance just to make her happy so she can have a magical Halloween. Now, Grandmama thinks these kids, meaning Gomez and Morticia, are crazy. You can't get a witch on such short notice on Halloween. So she has Lurch hide in the other room and pretend to be Aunt Singe.
Oh, fire of Salem! Oh, flame of Satan! Come in, Aunt Singe. We're all awaiting.
Hello? This is Aunt Singe.
Aunt Singe, please, say something to Wednesday.
Hello? Wednesday?
Grandmama never tells them the truth. So she's taking care of Gomez and Morticia, just like how they're taking care of Wednesday. Gomez and Morticia call Parks Commissioner Fisk, played by Alan Reed, so that Cousin It can have a job at the zoo. But Fisk thinks that Cousin It is actually an animal and puts him in a cage. Cousin It was created specifically for the TV show, and this is his introduction episode. After a few minutes of anticipation, we first meet him when Lurch opens the door. And even Lurch thinks he's weird. You rang? Cousin It? His appearance is slightly different in this one. He doesn't have the glasses, and his wig is actually made out of real human hair, so it's curlier and creepier. But because human hair is flammable, and so many people on the set smoked, they switched to synthetic hair. He has some great moments, like when he does his magic act and makes Uncle Fester's head disappear. But they don't overuse them, and the biggest jokes are a series of misunderstandings between the Addamses and Park Commissioner Fisk. Gomez and Morticia think that It has a job at the zoo. Commissioner Fisk thinks that It is an animal and puts him in a cage. Fester thinks the cage is an office. Then It leaves the zoo and goes home. And on the radio they announce that an animal has escaped the zoo and has been spotted going into the Addams home. Whatever one side does, the other has a completely different interpretation of it. And it keeps building, getting more and more ridiculous. And both sides have hysterical reactions. The final thing that I love is, despite all the craziness going on, everything takes place in the Addams' home. This was probably due to budget, but here they make it work for them. Because seeing the Addamses react to things is funnier than actually seeing them. Plus, by sticking to one main location, it makes it feel more like a New Yorker cartoon come to life. Number 2 is Mother Lurch Visits the Addams Family. What do you think, Cleopatra? I think she disagrees. In a letter to his mother, Lurch fibbed and said that he owned the house. So when his mother comes to visit, Lurch pretends to be the master, and Gomez and Morticia pretend to be the servants. This episode focuses on the spooky and lovely Morticia, played by Carolyn Jones, Gomez, played by John Aston, who has a zest for all aspects of life, and the sexiest man on TV, Ted Cassidy as Lurch. I'm not kidding. He would get fan mail from teenage girls saying he was even cuter than the Beatles. As I mentioned, underneath the grunt, and you rang, Ted brought a level of depth and tragedy to the role of Lurch, and they actually explore it here. As Charles Addams described him, he's a faithful butler, but not a very good one, and his whole life is about being at the beck and call of these crazy people who never work and are always having fun, and he's not completely happy with it. When he lies to his mother and says the house is his, he would really want that. This episode gives this powerhouse of a trio something completely new to play. First, Gomez and Morticia have to teach Lurch how to become a sophisticated man of leisure, which includes smoking making eyes at the maid, and not saying you rang. It takes time, but he starts to catch on.
I like the funnies.
Then Lurch's mother arrives, and she starts bossing around Gomez and Morticia, and that zest for life that Gomez has starts to drain away.
I don't trust a butler with a mustache.
I'm sorry, madam, I was born with it. At the end, after Lurch's mother leaves, there's a groovy bit of social commentary, because Gomez and Morticia are surprised to find that Lurch doesn't want to go back. Why would he? So Lurch is still the master, and Gomez and Morticia are still the servants.
The number 1 episode is Morticia's Romance. Boobala.
In the show's only 2-parter, it's Gomez and Morticia's 13th wedding anniversary, and they tell the children the story of how they got married. Gomez was originally engaged to Morticia's sister, Ophelia, but fell in love with Morticia instead. One of the show's greatest strengths is the relationship between Gomez and Morticia. He's excited and crazy, and she's sexy, sensible, and spooky. They're so funny together, but they're also passionately and sexually in love with each other. This was John Astin's rather daring idea, and this episode explores their love story, and it answers the questions that we have. It explores the family lineage. We learn that Grandmama is Gomez's mom, that Thing is Gomez's friend, and that Cousin is his cousin. And we learn that Uncle Fester is Morticia's uncle. But it also explains why the Addams family is so weird. Both Gomez's and Morticia's families are a little strange, but not as weird as they are. So they are just 2 people on the same page. Morticia likes to cook food like fried eye of newt, and her family thinks that's weird. But Gomez doesn't think it's weird. He thinks it sounds yummy. And Gomez is worried that she might think his friend Thing is a little odd. But Morticia says we must accept our friends for what they are. And while Gomez is showing her the trains, they both get the idea that they should destroy the trains together.
Oh, what lovely trains! I just adore trains.
You do? Well, let's give them a whirl. They always take my mind off my trouble.
I have an idea. What if they crash head on?
Aha! Better still, I'll blow them up. Take the switch.
Magnifique!
You spoke French. A strange feeling has come over me. For the first time in my life, my sinuses are clear. Speak some more. Moulin Rouge, Superjar, Julia Child, anything.
Gomez starts off as a rather sickly individual with bronchitis and sinus trouble, but loving Morticia gives him that zest for life. Making this episode even more special are the 2 new characters. First, there's Morticia's sister, the happy and wacky Ophelia, who's also played by the marvelous Carolyn Jones. Then there's Grandma Frump, played by Margaret Hamilton, whom we all know as the Wicked Witch of the West. With that background, she's the perfect choice, but she also gives a great performance, and she even wears the same outfit that she wore as Miss Gulch during the opening scenes of The Wizard of Oz. It's a wonderful and weird romance, and even though you know the outcome, just like Wednesday and Pugsley, you get wrapped up in the magic of it, which is why it's the number 1 episode. By the way, years later, John Astin would call Carolyn Jones and say, "I miss nibbling your arm."